Good evening and welcome to this meeting of West Berkshire Council's Eastern Area Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Alan McCrow and I'm the chairman of the committee. The other members of the committee present this evening are Councillors Jeremy Cottam, Paul Kander, Ross McKinnon, Jeff Mays, Justin Pemberton, Vicky Poole, Richard Somner and Clive Taylor. The following council officers are also in attendance to advise and support the meeting. Simon Till, Team Manager, Development Management. Paul Goddard, Highways Development Control Team Leader. Gemma Kirk, Senior Planning Officer. Kate Thomas, Legal Advisor. Gordon Oliver, Clerk. And Thomas Redbourne, who's our Zoom host. Before we start proceedings, I'd like to explain that tonight's meeting is being held both over Zoom and with councillors present in the council chamber. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so members of the public are able to follow proceedings. Please could I ask everybody present in the chamber to make sure you switch on your microphones when asked to speak directly into them and to switch them off when you're finished. Could I also ask you make sure you put your mobile phones to silent and have turned off the sound on your laptops. If we hear the evacuation alarm this evening, you must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via the safe emergency exit route and please follow any instructions given by officers. The assembly point is the car park of the Dolphin Pub. If the lockdown alarm sounds, we will remain seated and await instructions from officers. We will adjourn the meeting until such time as it's safe to proceed. When voting, only members present in the chamber can vote and voting will be by show of hands. Do members have any questions about the way this meeting will be conducted before we proceed? Thank you. And so the first item is apologies. Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
No apologies, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 2, minutes. The minutes were sent out by email. Do any member have any amendments they wish to raise on the minutes? In that case, could I ask for a proposal to accept the minutes as a true record? Councillor Somner, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Poole, thank you very much. Could all those in favour please show? Thank you. Anybody against? Aye. And one abstention? Thank you. So the minutes have been approved as a true record. I'll just sign those. You just bear with me for a moment. And item 3, do we have any declarations of interest, please? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move on then to item 4, and the only planning application on the agenda, which is 24/02658/ FUL-MAJ Thatcham, which is the regarding the flood alleviation scheme in the Memorial Fields. Could I ask Gemma Kirk to present the application to us, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The application before committee tonight seeks to vary conditions 2, approved plans, 9, landscape and ecological management plan, 10, soft landscaping and 20, footpath of permission 23/02187 full merge for the flood alleviation scheme at Thatcham Memorial Playing Fields. The applicant is West Berkshire Council. The application is at committee because it is a major application submitted by West Berkshire Council and more than 5 objections have been received. In addition, there has been a call-in on the application regardless of the recommendation due to concerns that proposals could hinder use of footpaths and recreational facilities. It is recommended that the committee delegate to the development manager to grant planning permission subject to conditions. The application site comprises of Thatcher Memorial Playing Fields in the west and Brown Sports Field in the east, and partially covers the tennis courts to the south as shown on the location plan. As you can see on this plan, the application site is bounded in the north, east and west by residential properties, and services and facilities are located to the south towards the centre of Thatcham. The original permission included a basin in the western field and a swale to the north of the eastern field. A bund runs along the southern perimeter of the basin and swale. This application does not seek to make amendments to these elements. The amendments for this application are seeking changes to the route of the footpath within the memorial playing fields, as shown on the plan on the screen. These amendments are at the eastern boundary, moving closer to the group of trees, as evidenced by this photo showing some during the construction phase. And also moving it closer to the southwestern boundary. This drawing's a bit clearer, but that's just showing the boundary in which the proposed footpath runs along. So there's also proposed amendment to the material of the footpath. This will now be a Breedon golden amber gravel. The photo shows the material proposed. There will also be the installation of a new gate and fences to the south of the basin. Again, referring back to the previous plan, there's an orange line just to the south of the basin with green gates shown on that drawing. There will also be the planting of 8 purple beech trees in the southeast corner of the memorial playing fields. So that will increase the total number of trees to 31 in total. So this is the soft landscaping plan, the amended version of it that you can see in the southeast corner, the 8 trees. And this is the updated table showing there'll be a total of 21 trees planted. And this photo, I'm sorry, the Harris fencing's in the way, but behind that is the trees that have been planted in that southeast corner. During the application, matters regarding the composition of the footpath and the roof protection area, maintenance of the footpath, and creating a buffer zone for the Exolium pipeline have all been resolved with additional information on minor amendments to the plans. It is noted that Thatcham Town Council object to the installation of the gates. Within the update report, an additional representation by Thatcham Town Councillor, which suggests conditions to mitigate concerns with the gates, and these have been addressed in the update report. We have been in receipt of 29 representations, 25 seeking to object to the application on the grounds relating to maintaining access and use of the footpaths at the memorial playing fields due to the benefits associated with the playing field and access to this space, harm to the character area due to the proposed fence, concerns regarding the reinstatement and implementation of the soft landscaping, sport facilities and dog exercise area. We've also been in receipt of 1 letter of support, which provides justification for the proposed amendments. Turning to the appraisal section, the principle of development was established under the original permission. It's considered that the amendments submitted as part of this application would not alter that principle and would still deliver the substantial flood mitigation benefits. It is considered that the proposed amendments would not result in harm to the character of the area and views across the site. This is shown during the construction, but you can see that you've got views standing in the southern site right across the north and the residential properties behind. And again, this is taken more recently, nearing the end of the construction, again, looking out over the playing fields to the north. And also the proposed amendments are considered to be in keeping with the playing field. It is considered due to the position of the proposed fence and gates and the trees, there would not be harm to neighbouring immunity from these amendments. However, it is recognised that the footpath amendments in the southwest corner would be repositioned closer to the dwellings on that western boundary, as you can see from this close-up on the western boundary in the footpath. And again, this is another one on that boundary. However, it is considered that the relocation would not significantly exacerbate the impacts for these neighbouring properties, as the area was already accessible and walkable for members of the public. It's also proposed planting within that area, and there are also existing trees and hedges which would help mitigate that impact. Regarding impacts to trees, during the application, matters regarding the repositioning of the footpath and the route protection area resolved with changes to the composition of the footpath in these locations. It is recommended a condition be applied to ensure the footpath reflects these latest details agreed with the tree officer. Also, the additional trees proposed would be an improvement to the existing agreed landscaping scheme. Regarding green infrastructure considerations, the reinstatement of the recreational ground, children's play area and tennis course lost during the construction will be reapplied to this permission, the conditions requiring details of those to be submitted. This application does not seek changes to the cricket equipment agreed under the original application. It is noticed that the free-lane cricket net is already in situ and the non-turf wicket is required to be installed, and a condition is recommended in the update report to secure its installation. A positive of the amendments to the footpath include creating more uninterrupted space within the playing field, and the material would be smooth surface that would make it accessible. A maintenance plan is proposed to be secured for the footpath to ensure its condition. It is considered by the use of condition requiring the gates to be unlocked and open unless for health and safety reasons or for private events would help address some of the concerns regarding preventing access to the near. Sorry, let me try that again. So it's considered that the use of a condition requiring the gates to be unlocked and open would address concerns raised in letters of objection regarding access to the playing fields for nearby residents. The ecology officer was satisfied with the amendments to the landscape and ecological management plan. Overall, it's considered that the proposed amendments would deliver environmental and social benefits. It is recognised that there are objections with the new fence and gates in particular and how these would impact on the access to the playing field. However, it's considered that the condition would alleviate some of these concerns. Whilst there would be some additional amenity impacts resulting in the relocation of the footpath in the southwest, it is considered that proposed amendments to the original permission would be acceptable. The committee are recommended to delegate to the development manager to grant planning permission with the conditions listed in the update report, which have been updated to reflect the latest progress of the development. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goddard, are there any highways issues you wish to raise, please?
I've no further comments to make to Gemma Kirk's comprehensive report, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to public speaking, and the first person who wishes to speak is Councillor Pike from Thatcham Town Council on Zoom.
Apologies, Chairman. He's just rejoining the meeting as a panellist.
Good evening, Councillor Pike.
Good evening, and as you can see, I'm not working from home. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Before we start, as I believe you probably know, you have 5 minutes. Would you like any kind of warning? A minute warning?
Yes, I hope it won't be needed, but thank you.
And if you could remain online when you finish, in case there's any questions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the flood alleviation scheme on the Thatcham Memorial Field is the final element of measures to prevent a recurrence of the flooding that affected Thatcham in 2007. The Town Council has actively supported these measures, and we support this scheme on the Memorial Field. Although smaller in size, it is the most complex in terms of land ownership and use. The Town Council is the freehold owner of Brownsfield, which it leases to Thatcham Town Cricket Club. We also recognise the impact that the scheme will have to the Memorial Trust, the Cricket Club and local residents. We supported the main application for the scheme in the previously approved application, and we support most aspects of the present application apart from concerns over the proposals for the gates across the path. And here I divert from my written speech because I'm grateful for the late acceptance of the comments that I submitted, which were have been endorsed by the Town Council related to the gates being locked in the open position, which addresses a large part of the concerns. So I will move on to the final part, which was not accepted, and I will read that the find it where it says it. So I'm working out of order now. Yes, so condition 20 of the previous application required details of the proposed footpaths to be submitted and approved for the following reason: to ensure that enjoyment of the playing fields and the connectivity it provides for residents to services in Thatcham are not harmfully impacted by the development. Therefore, conditions 16 and 17 of the present application require the provision and maintenance of footpaths across the memorial field. However, these conditions only fulfil the objective of providing connectivity for residents if these footpaths can be accessed from adjacent roads. To ensure this, we therefore suggest that an additional condition is added to the planning approval with the following wording. Within 1 month of the completion of the development approved by 23/02187/Formag and this decision, access from the footpaths hereby approved to Brownsfield Road, Tennyson Road and Beverley Close shall be restored. Now, I understand that that is the point that the planning officer said was not within the remit of planning, but I believe it, given the wording of condition 20 of the previous application, it would be justified to include that additional condition. So thank you very much. And that is my somewhat shorter presentation than I intended. And once again, thank you for the officers for considering and taking account of the very late submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions for Councillor Pike? Councillor Cossum.
Yes, Councillor Pike, that last condition you were referring to, number 20, could you explain a little bit more, elaborate a bit more what you were saying there?
So the point is that condition 16 and condition 20 is the one that has been modified in the update report, and that modification addresses the concerns that we had about the gate obstructing the free movement of people, of residents. So condition 20 is addressed and doesn't need further consideration. Or you're accepting the conditions in the update report would satisfy the concerns of the Town Council. Regarding the additional condition which we were proposing, this is because the planning application as it stands provides footpaths across the field for residents to provide connectivity to residents, but unless there is access provided from the field onto the adjacent roads, then that doesn't actually achieve any benefit. And the proposed it's an additional condition that we were proposing would address that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Any other questions for Councillor Pike? Thank you very much, Councillor Pike.
Thank you.
Move on then to objectors. Could Ms. Vicky Cause and Ms. Lindsay Hadley come to the podium, please? If you'd like to join, and then if there's any questions, you'd both be able to answer. Oh, sorry, I didn't appreciate that. It's going to be so difficult for you. There's a button on the.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Okay, thanks. So you have 5 minutes.
We are.
Sorry, just you to speak as or are you going to both speak?
Probably
Okay.
just be.
So you have 5 minutes. Would you like a warning?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Wave
please.
at me.
And if you could remain at the end in case there's any questions for members, please.
We are close neighbours of the field and have used the field for many, many years. And some of our neighbours who can't be here because of mobility and other things, they have been using the field since the late 40s and the early 50s. And our points are such. The path that was originally planned has not been connected between the Beverley Close entrance up around the northwest corner, which means that anyone with mobility issues, and some of our neighbours have wheelchairs, will not be able to go into the field and round the top to get out of the Whitelands and access things like nurseries, schools and family, they would have to go all the way down to the clock tower and back, which is not adequate for people who have mobility issues. It's an unfair disadvantage and reduces the enjoyment for all residents. The gates proposed, they are also in addition to the original approved plans, and they are for the total benefit of the landowner and to the detriment of all our tax-paying residents. There have never, ever been gates on this field in 70 plus years, and the charity has rented the field out for several years without issue with no gates. The route of the path in the southwest corner has been altered, and despite your no-dig plan to avoid damaging trees, it was altered and went straight through a stand of trees and destroyed the lot, and they were stump ground. So this is not adequate, and we should think that there should be additional trees added into the plan to make up for all the ones that have been destroyed. And as part of the flood defence work, for some reason, your workers destroyed and removed the recreation facilities that were outside the area of the development, which were the basketball area and the goalposts, which were used extensively by young people in the area. And we can't understand why this happened, and we want to know when they will be replaced, as they do not appear to have appeared on any of the planning. And the chain link fence that is proposed to go across the field will be an eyesore. Yes, we agree that there is chain link fences around the field, and there's similar fences in the area, but they generally have planting to soften them. The fence is not required to block the field, and it was not on the original plans. A low, knee-high bar was proposed to mark the border. The field has not been completely fenced in living memory and beyond, and the southern end is just a series of widely spaced concrete bollards. So why is a fence across the middle needed now? On your demonstration from Gemma Kirk, it showed a picture across the field towards the northern aspect, and it was shown to be a beautiful view going up, not interrupted by the flood defences. Well, it would be if you put your fence across the middle. And we would suggest that if you would like some hedges, rather than put them at the edge behind the end of Beverley Close and restrict their homeowners' access to their own fences for maintenance, move that hedge and put it across the field and make it apart. It wouldn't cost any more, and it would give a better view and add to the environmental benefit of the area, as we feel that the hedge along the back of the bungalows is not needed at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if you'd like to just remain for a few minutes, do members have any questions, please? Councillor Poole.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I know it's a little nervous when you're speaking today, so thank you for doing so well. I don't live within the district, so forgive me. When there's events on the field, how is it currently managed from a health and safety perspective? You mentioned that there's bollards on the field and that there's been many events without the need of fences or gates.
You actually have on your records a planning application for the car boot sales that have taken place for many years on the field, and on there is marked in dotted lines public routes of way, and it stipulates in your planning documents that they are not to be blocked. So that all that happens is they just put pig irons and tapes and still allow access at all times to go around and through the field, but just not into the car boot sale area.
Any other questions from members? Councillor Poole again.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's the me show again today. So reading through the documentation, it says that the fencing is going to be provided for health and safety. Has there been any issues with health and safety on the site before, during the flood defences, or anything that's required?
Not to our knowledge at all. And I went today and surveyed all the other flood defence areas, which have got public areas next to them, Agricola Way and Harts Hill, and not one of them has any fences around them at all. And they are used extensively by children, people walking their dogs. All of those are completely open. So we don't see the issue at all.
Any other questions? So, Councillor Kanda.
You mentioned an access having been taken away, and this is going to impact people who have low mobility. I'm trying to work out on this drawing, and I don't know if we can show it where that access point was, because
we've had various accesses altered or blocked. So the access on the west of the field, which leads into Beverley Close, you can see that there's a dink in your path that goes down. That used to attached to an alley leading to Beverley Close. That has been blocked, not because of the flood defences. That is another issue that is ongoing. And to the south, there's been a brick wall bricked up, which means that people with low mobility have to go down, around, and there is no proper safe access from the bottom, but we're hoping with your new path that's going to go in between the cricket club and the tennis courts that will help with some of the access. But to get to primary schools and nursery schools and up onto the Whiteners estate, you'd have to go from the western access all the way down to the bottom southern end of the field and back up again because the top path has not been built. In the summer, it might be possible because the ground is harder, but in the winter, that field is completely sodden. There's a reason you put your flood defences there. So, but in the summer, it's possible. I was on the field with a resident called Derek, and he uses an electric wheelchair with his dogs, and he's only just been able to get back onto the field. He went up the path, and then it stops in a dead end. So he couldn't go round the field. He'll have to go all the way back down to the bottom and back up again. So there is no connectivity between just above the western access all the way around to the northern access at Tennyson Road. It's on the original plans, but it was on the original plans, but it's now not been constructed. It's just grass now.
They suddenly just stopped it and left it as grass.
It's just a dead end.
Up and round, the last bit, just grass.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, members? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Move on then to questions to officers. Do any members have any questions, please? Have I missed something? Oh, I'm sorry. The agent. I beg your pardon. Would you like to come to the podium? Your supporter, sorry. Right, okay. That's up. Yes. So you also have 5 minutes. Would you like a warning towards it?
Yeah, go for it. 30 seconds before. Hopefully we'll be there.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
30 seconds before.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Come up. Sorry. I've been asked specifically by Ardent, the consulting engineers, to present on 3 design features that have been specifically requested by the trustees, namely the footpath layout, the inclusion of a fence with gates and additional trees. I'll start with the trees. Both the required management of the foundation's tree stock, some 70 years old, and the additional felling to enable flood defences has left the site visually changed. Concerned with estimations that trees and shrubs would not be planted until December 2025 or early 2026, the foundation sought to plant 8 trees to mark the 8 decades since World War II. The purple beech is on the plan, and this we hope will begin the re-greening of the site. I hope that the installation of additional trees does not need any greater justification than that trees are good for the site, good for our environment, and are pleasing to those that use the playing fields. The footpath layout, along with the fences and the gates, are intrinsically linked, not just to each other, but to the purpose of the site as playing fields and the foundation's principles of supporting amateur sport. I would ask members this evening to note that the access from Tennyson Close was granted permission by trustees in 1973, and later in 1982, access from Beverley Close was again granted permission by the trustees. As early as 1974, an annual closure to prevent a public right-of-way forming was in place and notified to both the Newbury Weekly News and Thatcham Town Council. And to this end, no public rights-of-way exist across this land. No public rights-of-way have ever been registered, nor has anyone sought to establish a public right-of-way. The site remains today, as it did in 1947, as the private property of the charity, and access is by permission of the Board of Trustees solely. Whilst the flood alleviation scheme is required to protect homes and livelihoods of residents, it is the greatest challenge to the sustained running of the site in almost 8 decades, and these works have been looming over us for 14 years. Since 2019, trustees, stakeholders and some residents have been viewing the works not as a devastating blow, but as an opportunity to readdress the site usage balance and how the charity can meet its objectives when faced with a 40% reduction in its land holdings. On the completion of the works, the former playing fields will be bisected, leaving an interestingly landscaped northern half and the southern half, which is now the only flat open space. The trustee strategy is simple. Two very different landscapes with two very different purposes. In time, the northern area will be transferred to West Berkshire Council, and we expect it to be run as a public open space for private recreation. We also hope the council will reconsider the installation of casual football goals and the basketball square in this area. Sport will be the focus of the retained playing fields to the south. Both Greenham Trust and the Football Federation have seen potential and have given grants to reinstate football on the site. In addition, the Berkshire Cricket Board have identified the playing fields as the only viable site for a second wicket in Thatcham, and indeed this council. West Berkshire Council have identified the playing field site in the new playing pitch strategy as a key site for the development of junior and ladies sport. The footpath layout is designed to create the largest amount of usable playing space and a pleasurable trail through the trees and bushes on the site's periphery. The fence is required to ensure the delineation of the landowners and their boundaries in the same way that fences have been installed in other defence schemes in Thatcham. The fence will also encourage the use of designated footpaths, preventing damage to the pitches by individuals walking the route of least inconvenience. Finally, we ask for the gates to ease management of the public and the playing fields in the instances of maintenance works, significant matches and private hire, a practice no different to Thatcham Town Council's management of Lower Way or Newbury Town Council's management of Northcroft.
You have 20 seconds remaining.
I close by asking you to support the recommendations of the planning officer to approve these plans as they stand. And I invite any questions.
Thank you. Do members have any questions, please? No? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then move on to the agent, Mr. Gareth Hardwick, via Zoom, please. Mr.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, good. I do apologise. It's the technology. This Section 73 application is submitted.
You have 5 minutes. Would you like a warning towards the end of that 1 minute to go?
Yeah, 1 minute's great. Thank you.
And if you could remain online at the end.
Yeah.
Some members, please.
Yeah. So this Section 73 application is submitted further to the granting of the main permission, which was granted in March 2024. Following that approval, and when we started construction of the main basin, further discussions took place between the Memorial Trust Foundation and West Berks Council and ourselves representing the council. And these matters essentially fell into the three headings: realignment of the footpath in two specific locations to more closely reflect historic public access routes, installation of a boundary fence to define the extent of the flood alleviation scheme land from the Memorial Trust land, with the inclusion of open gates at the footpath crossing points, and then the planting of the 8 new purple beech trees. To support the proposed footpath alignment, an arboricultural method statement has been prepared, setting out measures to protect retained trees during the footpath construction process. The proposed fence, requested by the Trust, will provide a clear boundary between the flood alleviation scheme operational land that the West Berks will own in time, and sorry, I just lost my way. Where the fence intersects the realignment of the footpaths, gates will be installed and not only left open, but with an additional post so they can be locked open. So no one has to open a gate to get through in the normal course of events. This will maintain public access. A dedicated maintenance access point for vehicles to go through is also proposed just alongside. Planting of the 8 purple beech trees on the eastern edge within the trust land serves a commemorative purpose to honour those of the last 2 world wars, as Nathan has outlined, and provide an additional positive contribution to the scheme's net biodiversity. And that's essentially the works as proposed, or the amendments as proposed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So if we could just remain while members can ask questions. Councillor Cottam.
Thank you, sir. What have you got any comments about the northern direction and the dead end path, and why that seems to have disappeared?
Yes, around the top of the basin there is a maintenance track which has a grillage buried sort of just under the surface. So the idea is the grass grows through, but it will take vehicles, so it will certainly take walking. So the paths link to that maintenance track. And so, in fact, there is connectivity around the top. The path has also been linked to the edge of the Beverley Close closed off path. So when the fence is taken down, or if the fence is taken down, which again was nothing to do with the scheme, then that connectivity onto the path network is there. Does that sort of answer your question?
Well, the concern was about the electric wheelchair access, I believe, that was raised earlier. Would that be, would residents be, disabled residents on electric scooters also be able to use that path?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's called NetPave, the product, and it's there to take wheeled vehicles. So something of a lesser loading shouldn't be a problem at all. They're sort of inch and a half squares. So
including electric scooters, you're saying?
Yeah, I would have said so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members, please? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The proposal to vary the surface and path or direction of the footpath looks like those works have already been done before we've decided on permission tonight. Was there any particular reason for that?
Yeah, it was one of expedience that we had a main works contractor who was contracted to do all of that work, who has finished work. We did apply a long time ago before the work started, but it has taken an inordinate amount of time to get to this position now. So we either would have suspended the works and brought them back at some significant expense, or we've put the paths in, and I suppose fingers crossed that you give us a retrospective approval.
Councillor Kanda.
Hi, so I just want to go back to the point that was discussed with regards to the dead end and then it meeting a maintenance road. My eyes are bad, but also I've taken a photograph trying to have a look at the actual join on one of the drawings where it goes from orange to grey, which I assume the grey part is the maintenance road.
Yeah.
It seems to make reference to gravel. So I don't know if there's a gravel join there or something, which could prove difficult for mobile people. And also, I'm assuming there would be no restrictions on the ability for people to walk on that if it's used for maintenance vehicles.
No, there'll be nothing preventing them. The reference to gravel, I think, is to do with the actual paths around the field. It's a product called Breeden Gravel.
Okay. I mean, I took a photograph and tried to blow it up because I can't read it with my eyes, even with my glasses.
Yeah.
Proposed gravel something. Yeah. Perhaps we could just double check that if somebody has got a PDF of the drawing? Because can you read it? Well, that's what I was thinking. That's why I tried to photograph it.
So perhaps officers could respond to that next.
When we get to that point. Thank you.
Councillor McKenna, do you want to raise a question? No. Councillor Poole.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed from the original approved application that the tree path line has been varied. And it's been mentioned today by members from the community. I know that you've planted 8 trees. I'm just wondering how many trees sadly had to be removed and ground down as a result of the path being changed.
No trees were taken down because of the path. The path relocation was going to wiggle its way through the trees. The trust separately had decided for their own maintenance purposes that they were taking down a number of trees, and they had a separate liaison with West Berk's tree officer, and those trees were taken down through their maintenance of the land. We then took advantage of that and didn't wiggle the path as much because the trees weren't there anymore. But the trees most definitely were not taken down to accommodate the path. The path took the line that the removed trees offered to us.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We go to the ward member, Councillor Cotton. We can remain there if you wish. It's easier for you, I think.
Thank you, Chair. I think many of the points that I was going to raise.
You have 5 minutes as well.
Thank you for reminding me.
Would you like a reminder?
No, I think I'll be fine. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I mean, many of the points have been answered. I think there's a slight conflict here in the fact that we have, I believe, still to be evaluated the highways comments and the unfettered access along footpaths, etc. It needs to be clarified. I don't seem to be in. I normally expect update sheets here. I didn't see them, so I'm not sure whether. These have included that point. The damaged trees was certainly one of my concerns, and okay, that's actually not down to our contractor, that's down to the Memorial Hall. Sad to see them go because so many trees actually have gone. I believe from the paperwork that I have read that it actually, we seem to be putting more trees in than we had initially inclined. I hope that, with this being in West Berkshire's ownership, that might be increased further. Certainly, as a ward member, it's something I would pursue to see what we can do to enhance this situation. I do have the question also remains outstanding about the basketball court and whether I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't actually see where that institution of that is in the paperwork and maybe should be. I'm somewhat satisfied that the dead end path now is and will be available, and we've had reassurance that that will be the case. I brought this forward because we have in Beverley Close and that surrounding area a silent majority of senior citizens. I include myself, I was one of those, that are not vocal, and I felt that these people had to be heard, and they've actually, their spokesperson has done an excellent job, and thank you very much for coming and presenting the case. Other than that, as I said, in the overall picture is, let's see if we can enhance it beyond what we've got on the paper, but that's not our planning permission. I have, as I said, a great concern about the unfettered access. I know there are other issues, and with the path going to the west already, and I hope that this gate as such is not going to impact even further the availability on actual access to the field, because I've been here nearly 4 decades and I've used it on many, many occasions. If you're heading for the town council, you're heading for the Mem Hall, where and you're accessing basically the town centre through there, it is a critical footpath for all of these people, and I would like to make sure that this continues into the future. I think that's it. Other than, as I said, on the issues which I will be asking the highways to maybe clarify the points of the unfettered access to that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the ward member, please? No, thank you very much. Move on then to questions of clarifications from officers. Are there any questions for officers, please? Councillor Cotton.
Thank you. Yes, it's as on page 10, at the top of page 10, the issues of raised by the highways and the comments about the are we satisfied that we can assure the retaining of unfettered access along the footpaths and that the gates, while being there, although I would prefer not to see a grill fence across the actual field. I think it's it's a issue which any landowner I suppose is entitled to do so. My concern is that you mentioned basically the closing of the gate for basically health and safety. My goodness, what a wide remit that is. Is that leaves on the track type syndrome where you have, during autumn it's closed because there are leaves on the path? Is that a health and safety issue? I think it's just too broad a definition. And I will accept that there must be times when there may be works that will be needed done, so that the gate may be closed to mitigate actual health and safety issues. So, sorry, I went on a bit further than I should have there, but I still think that all applies to the unfettered access of the field, if I may, through you, Chair.
Mr. Goddard, couldn't you help with the access questions, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I can probably help with most of those points. Firstly, your officers strongly support unfettered access, continued unfettered access for all pedestrians through this site. And we understand that some of the routes have been closed, we think, during construction. And it is our hope that when the works are all finally completed, that all footpaths that were there on the site will then be reopened and once again be available for use. In saying that, I think as was mentioned, there are no public rights of way across the site, and therefore we don't actually have any jurisdiction over these routes at all through the site. But it is our hope, and it would seem from the plans, that the routes will all be re-established once again. Regarding the fencing across the site, I think the reasons for the fence and the gate that will be kept open. It will be kept open all the time and locked in that position until such an event where it needs to be closed. My understanding is that that is what the landowners, that is their requirements for the reasons set out. And there is a condition applied to this within at the end of your report that the gates are kept open unless there is some sort of event or safety or maintenance issue that takes place that results in the gate being temporarily closed. But I would say once again that because this is private land and all these paths are private, the landowner has total control over it. We have no jurisdiction over it. My understanding is that the planning officer, Gemma Kirk, has worked with the reasoning for the gates. I don't know if she's got anything to add to what I've just mentioned. Have I covered it all?
No, I don't think I have anything further to add on that.
Thank you. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Till.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to add something regarding this, and this is for the benefit of members' understanding, really. Usually, if we were dealing with a large open space that's accessible to the public, like this one, it would be a public open space. And a public open space would typically be subject to a planning permission. It may be under management, and there would be conditions of that planning permission related to the management of the open space. This isn't such a case. This is a private public open space. And I should add as well that the other situation that a public open space would be provided is, of course, where the council would own and maintain it. That being the case, while there may be access requirements on the owner that form part of the deeds and covenants related to that bit of land, in planning terms, the owner is entitled to exercise their rights over that bit of land in the manner that they choose to do so, be that to exercise permitted development rights in the form of erecting fences, walls, other means of enclosure, or be that to otherwise obstruct entrance and egress from the site. Those would not be planning matters. Unfortunately, in this case, a large amount of the debate around the paths on the site has taken place because of the owner of the land choosing to exercise their own rights to erect means of enclosure. And just for complete clarity, I'm referring to the fence that's currently obstructing the access onto Beverley Close from the park. So we have to tread a careful line in terms of considering this planning application, because we can't impinge on matters that form part of the land ownership of the site and the status of the site as a private bit of land. We need to remember that the rights of the owner in this case are not the same as would usually exist over a public piece of land that was in council ownership or subject to a planning permission with requirements for access and permeability to be retained. And in considering the fence, and I apologise for being somewhat long-winded, but I do think that this is of value, I would ask members to note that at present, the landowner has the right to erect, as I've said, such means of enclosure as they choose over their land. And that would include a fence, it would include a gate, and it would include an uncontrolled use of that gate. So, members, the reasons that your officers have said that we consider the condition to be such as to meet the requirements for permeability is because, in your officer's view, that condition is as far as we can reasonably go to secure that gate remains open. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So, I'll fade out that. And Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, could I just go back to the question of the basketball net and the goal posts that were referred to that have been, I understand, have been removed and are being used by, I think, young people and teenagers. I think those facilities are quite important because they're I assume these are completely free for use. I can't see any. Is it possible to add a condition that those particular facilities are reinstated? Because I can't see that there is a condition requiring that any of the paperwork.
So to answer that, they were removed as part of the kind of construction of the flood alleviation scheme. We didn't, at the original permission, request any conditions related to the basketball court or the golf posts, and it's not really part of the scope of this application, the Section 73, for what we're considering to now add conditions on related to reinstating the basketball area and the goalposts.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Well, it answers the question. I mean, it'd be good if a condition could be applied to that effect. It seems a fairly simple request. We're not talking about you know, I assume it's a goalpost in a basketball net. But you know, I understand what the planning officer is saying here.
Okay.
Chairman?
Councillor Cottam.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that all of this renewal has been paid for out of the budget of the project. So I think here it's an evidence that maybe it was missed off. It's not going to cost the landowner anything. I think it's quite clear from the intentions throughout the report that we reinstate it back to where it was. And I think those two issues are still outstanding, as Councillor Taylor has actually said.
Mr. Silver, is there any way we can kind of ask politely?
Chairman, I find myself in a little bit of a tricky position regarding how legislation is interpreted in this respect, because the application that is submitted is a Section 73 application. Now, Section 73 essentially tweaks a previous planning permission, in this case, the planning permission for the original scheme as approved. What it cannot do is introduce and control new matters that were not subject of the previous planning permission. Therefore, your officers have considered this matter, but our view is that this would be to introduce a new element into the scheme. The basketball area goalposts didn't form part of the previous planning permission. They've been removed outside of the scope of that permission, albeit that the applicant might have been carrying out works to implement the permission. My advice would be that West Berkshire Council projects are supervising this, the implementation of this planning permission. It is within their gift, as you've heard from the Memorial Trust and Thatcham Town Council, to carry out works to restore the goalposts and basketball court. We could certainly apply an informative to that effect, but I feel that applying a condition would be going beyond what this planning permission should be able to grant in legal terms.
Thank you. It must have been an informative, was what I had in mind. Any other questions? Okay, sorry, Councillor Poole.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I always have one more. Forgive me, I read it in the documents and I can't find the reference now. It says that the gates are to be closed at the weekends. Now, from someone who has young children, we go to the park a lot at the weekends where they kick a ball around and run free. And I'm mindful that that's not necessarily the case on this site. Can someone provide me some reassurance that the gates are going to be, or the field will be open for full access?
I think that's covered in the new condition on the update sheet. So the gates are required to be locked open. Okay.
In there, they said they were guaranteed.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Poole.
Thank you very much. Mr. Till, correct me if I'm wrong. So this, as you mentioned before, is a Section 73, which is a slight variation on the original planning application. The original planning application, which I have in front of me here on page 89, I can share this with you for ease if you wish. It mentions the footpath, and I won't read the whole full piece, but the reason that this is in here is to ensure that the enjoyment of the playing fields and the connectivity it provides for the residents to services in Thatcham is not harmfully impacted by the development. I'm mindful that the alteration that's been made to the top of the path that goes around to the north west, and with that gravel surface being changed, it obviously then impacts. I'm just wondering whether or not that's something that we need to be mindful of in this application as well.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Poole, you've heard from the agent on behalf of the developer projects team themselves that in their view, the footpath link where the vehicular surface has been provided is suitable to be repassed by all members of the public, including those who have accessibility needs. Now, I'm no expert on grasscrete style surfaces, but I've walked over plenty of them in my time. I believe that this proposed surface is suitable for wheeled vehicles on the evidence given by the agent tonight. I couldn't comment whether it's accessible by other members of the public, for example, those using walking sticks. I've certainly walked over grasscrete surfaces which would be problematic in that respect. I understand from the case officer that the vehicular access track did actually form part of the originally approved plans. Now, I'm going to refer back to the case officer to ask if it formed part of the approved plans in the form that it's been provided on the site.
So I can share my screen because I did do the original. I brought the original general arrangement as well. Just that might be useful. So this was the approved general arrangement plan. So the purple here indicates the original proposed route of the footpath, and then you can see there in a kind of beige colour that was going to be net paved surface as part of the original application. And then the footpath was due to join again in a similar location to that now suggested in both the east and west.
Thank you.
Chairman, just coming back on that. So my comments would be, it's already been approved. To provide members with some reassurance, this is a West Berkshire Council supervised project. It will be transferred over to the council when the site's complete. We do have our own set of statutory requirements in terms of ensuring accessibility for members of the public to open space that is under our control. And I imagine that if this surface proves problematic in future, then there is the potential for it being considered for replacement. But I would advise you that as it forms part of the previous approval, it would seem that there's little that we could do to alter it now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Shall we move on to the debate then? Would someone like to start the debate, please?
I'd like to hear other members' comments before I come to a conclusion myself.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've heard some very valid points being raised, but I think most of them have been addressed. And I'm not sitting here at the moment looking at anything that isn't achievable, either by the service or the current portfolio holder for the service, if I can put it like that, not wishing to lead into a political area, but it's a fact. So a few points that I've noted down. I mean, the reasons for the fencing and the gating seems to be perfectly logical, perfectly adequate. Land ownership of available solutions, which could have been put in at any time. The access we heard from Mr. Gregory is something which the trust has applied within legislation periodically to prevent a more permanent position being formed by default, which they don't want to happen. And I have to say I commend them for the management of the land that they own on that basis, because there are probably many, many landowners out there that wouldn't operate within the boundaries that are set. They have done, from what I can gather. I find it, I actually find it quite difficult when I have listened so many times since I was first elected in 2015 about the tragic events that took place and the impact on Thatcham. And during my time as a portfolio holder, I have supported absolutely the desire, the design, and the outcomes of all of the flood alleviation work that has taken place by this authority. I think officers have done an absolutely sterling job. They've managed to get funding to achieve things around Thatcham, basins around Thatcham, which will keep the people of Thatcham safe. And I don't think we should underestimate at any time what happened and what they are trying to achieve in what they're doing and have been doing over a number of years. There are a few key things that have come up that, say, I've raised eyebrows at, but I've noted them down. Things like chain link fencing being obtrusive. Not as obtrusive as anything that is more solid would be my immediate response to that. And I've seen fencing go up around areas which is much more obtrusive. And from a distance, it completely cuts out anything, any view that anyone may have had previously. As far as health and safety is concerned, I take the point raised by my colleague, but I raised the question about who ultimately would be responsible for the safety of members of the public in what in effect would become an area of open water, potentially, should the bowl actually be effective in doing what it's designed to do. And I think we've heard the complexity of land ownership for the area. And again, I can understand any landowner wanting to take whatever action they could to make sure that they mitigate the risk that might fall at their doorstep. I think it's interesting that we've heard and we can see throughout the document about fences being put up and gates being put up that shall remain unlocked at all times. I mean, it sounds like a good solution. What's been put forward sounds like a good solution, and I can't see a better way of doing it under the circumstances that we have had laid out before us. Grasscrete isn't always an interesting one. It's great for driving on. It's not always great for walking on, depending on what style solution is put down. But it is more environmentally friendly than taking the grass away completely. And it's something which, again, in my time in the portfolio, I was happy to see and promoted the use of in areas rather than concrete, rather than tarmac, rather than gravel, which takes that all away. For me, Chairman, everything that has been raised as a concern has been addressed. And I know I say that as somebody that doesn't live in the immediate vicinity, but I say it as someone that has seen these sort of solutions put forward elsewhere in different ways. So for me, as I sit here at the moment, noting that colleagues will obviously have something more to add, I am prepared absolutely to support officers' recommendation at this time, but I will wait for decisions.
Thank you. And thank you for reminding us for the reason for this, but I remember that terrible day in 2007. And I think it was very fortunate that nobody lost their lives that day. Thank you. Anybody else like to join the debate, please? Councillor Cotton.
Under my esteemed colleague, Councillor Sumner, I completely agree. We have to keep in mind what this was for. I was actually there. I waded thigh deep to schools to save my children because it could have been, as you say, a lot worse. And of course, you know, we must accept some costs on the community of protecting. This is the last link in the whole system where we've had it sweeping around to the north and northeast of the area. And it is absolutely critical. We need to ensure the safety of the people to the south, the A4, as well as those. I remember like Northfield Road. I remember Stony Lane. It looked like rapids that you might go down the Grand Canyon. So I keep that in mind. Having said that, of course, we do this in keeping in mind that we try to minimise and mitigate the inconvenience that is being imposed, quite rightly in my view, on the local residents and look after their interests. And of course, speaking as a ward member, this is especially important to myself. I think as such, because of this is a planning issue, we are restricted about what we can enforce and what we can't do. I think the officers have done as much as they can. So really, you know, the landowner has been mentioned many times here. And all I can, you know, they are present here today, is that within the remit of the Memorial Hall Board is to respect the deeds and covenants of that original purpose, which was public open space. And yes, of course, they have the right to control access to that, but I think the whole purpose of that field must be somehow respected and regarded, and we try and continue in the way it has been used. As I said, I've lived there nearly 4 decades, and I've used that paths myself many times. I feel a bit more comfortable that we can actually mitigate any problems with that northern route. And I, as ward member, will be looking to make sure that that is respected and that it can be made to work for the residents of, especially Beverly Close. It's so important to them, as I said. You know, a lot of them are, like myself, older people who will struggle, and I think we need to respect their usage of the space. And I believe and I hope that the Memorial Hall Board also respect their requirement and needs. So I guess, you know, I normally look to Councillor Sumner to do this, but I will, as a ward member, there's continuation. I'll defer to Councillor McKinnon.
Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Quattam. I think the objectors to this application have spoke very well and very powerfully, and I understand and I hear their concerns. However, I think Councillor Sumner summarised my thoughts exactly, as has Councillor Quattam. But that day back in 2007, it was the day my eldest daughter was born. And I was worried at the time that it was a bit of an omen, that the heavens had opened. And thankfully, that's not turned out to be the case. That's the real reason for why we have this scheme in front of us. And I think others have spoken very well about why we need it. And I'd also like to thank the officers for very clear explanations and clarifications to the legitimate concerns that we have. But yeah, to sum up, I'm in complete agreement with Councillor Sumner and Quattam.
Anybody else like to raise any points, please? And in that case, would somebody like to make a proposal?
On that basis, we only have control of the northern section of this. So as a ward member, I will pay particular attention to that as far as it goes, and with the sincere hope that, you know, the Memorial Hall panel actually listens to what's been said and the concerns expressed by the public. I propose the as set out in the officer's recommendation.
With the amended conditions on the update sheet, and with that informative about the
yes, please,
the
Chairman.
goal and the
Absolutely.
basketball.
You read my mind. Thank you.
Is that a second, Councillor Sumner?
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a proposal to accept offers as recommendations with those two changes. Could I have everybody in favour, please? Please show. Yeah. Does anybody against? Any abstentions? No, I think that was unanimous. Thank you very much. So, so we've given planning permission for this proposal, with the changed condition about the gates being left locked open, and with an informative to request that the goal and the basketball hoop be reinstated. Okay, thank you very much. So that I think concludes our business. I'd like to close the meeting.